Welcome to Podcast Marketing Magic. This is your host, Seth Green. If you are looking to get impossible to reach decision makers to seek you out, if you want to write a book without writing a book, and if you want to learn how 20 minutes a week can get 20 people referring you business, you have come to the right place. I am your host, Seth Green. We are going to go ahead and get started in just a few minutes. Welcome to Podcast Marketing Magic. This is Seth Green. I'm your host. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you're here, I hope you want to know how to get impossible to reach decision makers to seek you out, how to write a book without writing a book, and how 20 minutes a week can get you 20 people referring you business. If you've got questions during the webinar, type them in the chat box, and I will monitor that and do my best to answer them as we go. So have you ever wondered how some businesses seem to thrive and others doing the same exact service, maybe even better, don't? Have you ever wondered how so many, maybe your colleagues, maybe your competitors, seem to get so many more customers, clients, or patients, so many more referrals, so much more media exposure? Why does the media call one person for a soundbite and not another? Well, you're about to discover how I figured out and cracked the code to solve all of those problems. Also, I promise to share with you exactly how we do it and exactly how we're doing it for our clients. So I hope that you have grab paper, grab pen, get ready to take some notes. So why podcasting? I don't want to assume that everybody knows what a podcast is. So the 2-second version, a podcast is a radio show on your phone. And I'm going to tell you why that's important in a minute. But how I created this system was I interviewed 15 of the top podcasters in the world. People with, some of them had audiences in the millions and millions of listeners. And I said, how'd you do it? How'd you grow? How are you using this to make money? Spill your secrets. And that, of course, is the foundation for my book, Podcast Marketing Magic, and the system that I'm about to teach you. So buckle your seatbelts. Also, I'm going to do a shameless quick plug here. I hope that you will subscribe to my podcast. So it is free. If you go to ultimatemarketingmagician.com/podcast, I'll put the link in the chat box. You can subscribe for free. My podcast has been as high as number 3 on iTunes. It has been in front of 2.2 million people, and we get clients from it literally every single day. And depending on how you follow our steps, you will too. So let's dive right in. Now, podcasting has been around for a while. Why now? What's the big hubbub about podcasting now? Well, let me tell you. What you're looking at is something called Apple's CarPlay. CarPlay. Apple spent billions of dollars to get a deal with every single major car manufacturer so that the next new car you buy over the next 5 years, your display is going to look like this. It will come pre-bundled with the Apple Podcast interface, right where my cursor is. You will not be able to delete this even if you want to. So let's pretend that you don't have an iPhone, an iPod, an iPad, or an iMac. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have an iCar. And there are a billion people listening to podcasts right now, which is exciting enough. But it gets more exciting when you think about it in the next 5 years based on CarPlay. There's going to be triple that number. 3 billion people will be listening to podcasts. They're going to be searching for who you are or what you do. Will they find you? Not if you're not there. The 2 most used smartphone apps other than, like Facebook, are the podcast app and the Amazon app. So you need to have a podcast and you need to have a book. It doesn't matter what business you're in, and I'll show you how it applies regardless of the business. So that's why the time is now, because even though the real original ground floor of podcasting might have been 5 or 10 years ago, because of CarPlay, the new ground floor is right now. Even though there are a billion people listening to podcasts, it seems every day I run into business owners, professionals, doctors, lawyers who don't even know what a podcast is. And that's totally normal. That's nothing wrong with them. They just don't know yet. So the time is now. If you're going to do it, you want to do it now. Who I am, a little bit real quick about who I am and why you should listen to me. I have written 6 best-selling books: Financial Advisor Marketing Magic, Real Estate Marketing Magic, Cutting Edge Marketing Magic, Online Marketing Magic, The Facebook Ninja, and Podcast Marketing Magic. I have been featured. The grumpy older gentleman to the next of me is Dan Kennedy, the #1 marketing guru of our time, and the 21 best-selling books, highest paid marketing consultant of all time. And he has been kind enough to nominate me for his prestigious Marketer of the Year award 3 years in a row. I am the only person in history to be nominated back to back to back. I've also been featured on real media like the Wall Street Journal, CBS Money Watch, CNN, NBC, Boston Globe, Miami Herald, and a whole bunch of others that I don't have room to list here. But I didn't start out that way. My undergraduate degree, I went to Syracuse University, and I majored in acting. At 18 years old, my life goal was to be a Broadway star. And you sort of see how that worked out. The reason why it didn't work out, I'm about to tell you. My senior year, 2 of my friends and I decided we were going to produce an interactive murder mystery musical by Charles Dickens called The Mystery of Edwin Drood. So we formed a student organization. We went to the student government and we said, here's our budget, and they gave us the money. So I was a producer. I was off to the races. Well, what happened was I started producing the show. We had sets built, costumes sewn. We're off to the races. And 6 weeks before opening night, we get a phone call from the student government saying, we need to talk. Now, if you ever get a phone call where someone says we need to talk, it's never good news, right? You've never gotten, we need to talk, I love you. We need to talk, here's a raise. It's usually we need to talk, I want to just be friends. So we went into the meeting and they said the bylaws of SU, Syracuse, prevent us from giving a first-time organization so much money. We screwed up. We need half your budget back. And I said, that doesn't work. We're 6 weeks from opening night. And they said, no, you don't understand. We froze your bank account. We took the money. We're just telling you. So my friends and I had a choice. We could close the show or we could figure out a way to make the money. And I said, hey guys, I got this brilliant idea. I have all these pre-approved credit card applications sitting on my dining room table in my apartment. Why don't we just fill them out, send them in? I'll charge the show. We'll sell tickets. We'll make the money back. And if we don't have any, don't sell enough tickets, then you guys will get credit cards and we'll split it 3 ways. And that's how we'll pay for the show. So that was, my Tom Cruise moment. If you remember in Top Gun, the cigar chomping admiral saying, son, your ego's writing checks your body can't cash. That was me. So we produced the show. And then the issue was that I knew nothing about marketing then. So we didn't sell enough tickets. So I went to my friends at graduation and I said, guys, here's how much money we owe. You got to split it with me, like we said. And they went to their parents and asked their parents for permission to split it. And their parents said no, and I got screwed. So I was left with all of the debt. And at 22, I had no way to pay it back. And on what I thought was the worst day of my life, I had to go Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I couldn't pay it back. There was no way. It was more than I made my first year. It was twice as much as I made my first year. It was actually more than that. And I was so embarrassed and so ashamed when the bankruptcy court judge was saying, you spent how much on a musical? How does this make sense? So I had gambled. I borrowed him a bunch of money, basically to gamble on something I knew nothing about, and lost big time. So I figured a good career choice, maybe I shouldn't be a producer or an actor. Maybe I should be a financial advisor. So that's what I did. I became a financial advisor at a Fortune 500 firm, and there were 6,700 reps at that firm, and I was one up from the bottom because my manager told me to make 300 cold calls a day, and that was how I was going to get clients. And for those of you who've ever cold called for a living, you know how much it's not enjoyable. So one day in my spare time, I am a professional magician. And I was reading a magic magazine, and there was a full-page ad for a marketing course for magicians. Again, I'm cold calling, I didn't have the money. So I went to my parents and I said, Mom and Dad, can you buy this for me for my birthday? And they said, sure. I took the course, I implemented the course, and in 30 days, I became the most expensive, busiest magician in my city. It really, really worked. So I called the guy named Dave D, who some of you know, who sold me the course. And I said, how do I do this in my real job? And he said the 2 words that changed my life. He said, Dan Kennedy. So I talked to Dan, and Dan said, you shouldn't be cold calling. You shouldn't be mass mailing. You're doing everything wrong. Write me a really big check and I'll change your life. Now, obviously, his pitch was a lot better than that and took all day, but I'm saving time. So I went home to my wife, Rebecca, and I said, honey, 12 months ago, we got married. 9 months ago, we bought our first house. 3 months ago, we had our first baby. 2 weeks ago, you quit your job to become a stay-at-home mom, leaving me, the sole breadwinner, cold calling for a living. I need to go borrow a bunch of money to go hire this guy, Dan. And she said, didn't you tell me a story about how you borrowed money once and it didn't work out so well? I'm going to say no. So every day I came home and I said, honey, you don't understand. I need to go borrow this money. And each day her no got more and more vehement. It got more and more intense. Some profane words slipped in now and then. But on day 31, the clouds parted and she said, you better pray this works. So I hired Dan and he quadrupled my revenue in the first 2 years. I went from the bottom of 6,700 reps to the top 30 in the country in 2 years, which is unheard of in financial services. It got me profiled in the largest trade journal for financial advisors. It got me written about in 3 best-selling books for financial advisors. And I said, this is amazing. Well, Dan, what do I do now? And he said, you need to start a marketing company and you need to do this for other people. So I started Market Domination LLC, which you can find at ultimatemarketingmagician.com. And that was 8 years ago. It started as me and one client. We now have an office building full of amazing team members and hundreds of clients all over the world, including several Fortune 500 companies that we've consulted for. So it's been an incredible journey. And along the way, as I mentioned, I've written 6 books. So let's dive in. Let's talk about why podcasting is your freedom. And I'm going to show you in a minute. If you're taking notes, awesome. If you're not, now is the time to start. Because podcasting will help overcome all of those challenges of publicity, of media exposure, of getting more referrals, of getting more clients, customers, and patients. Doesn't matter what business you're in. We've done it in more industries than you can possibly imagine, and some that you don't even know exist. So you want to write this down. iTunes is not a social network. iTunes is a media platform. iTunes is a media platform. Once you have a podcast on a media platform, guess what that makes you? You're now a reporter. A reporter. Let that sink in. Because as a reporter, you have the ability to grant anyone what they want most. What Mary Kay says they want more than money and sex is exposure. So now, if there's no more cold calling, you're not cold calling trying to get business, you've got a media appearance opportunity. It's a completely different ballgame, and you're not going to call them anyway because you're going to outsource that because we're going to do it for you. But I'll give you some examples. Who can your podcast get you in front of? I talked about impossible to reach decision makers. This is Gary Okino, client of ours. He's a golf coach. His podcast is called The Outdoor Boardroom, where he interviews large company and Fortune 500 company CEOs who golf. And the interviews are about life and business lessons learned on the golf course. And because of that, on the show, we script all his interview questions, just like we script them for all of our clients. But a couple of his questions are, what golf course is on your bucket list? And anyone alive today, celebrity, athlete, doesn't matter, who would you want to play it with? So let's pretend the CEO says, I want to play St. Andrews and I want to play with BJ Singh. So Gary at the end of the interview says, hey, I noticed you mentioned BJ Singh, St. Andrews. Would you be open to, can I send you something about how you could make that happen? And the CEO says, oh my God, that'd be my dream come true. You'd be my hero. So Gary sends what I call our shock and awe box to the CEO, which gets the CEO to fill out a lengthy application for Gary's last golf lesson ever program, because it costs over $100,000 a year, because Gary rents a private jet, flies to the CEO, picks him up, flies out to BJ Singh, pays BJ Singh his $30,000 appearance fee, picks up BJ Singh, flies to St. Andrews, they play for 2 days and flies him home. And the CEO loves Gary for the rest of his life. He has scaled down programs where there's no private jet, there's no celebrity. You just fly Gary out to your course to play for a couple days, that for $5,000 or $10,000 as opposed to $100,000. But in comparison to the $100K, $10,000 for a weekend seems reasonable. So Gary hasn't made our last couple physical mastermind groups that I lead because he's been in Aruba, he's been in the Bahamas, he's been some tropical place, not in cold, rainy Buffalo, playing golf and getting paid a ton of money to do it. So if Gary were to try and cold call and get to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, he'd never get through. But because we have a multi-step, multimedia marketing campaign about a media appearance for said CEO, it works. And then that CEO is chasing Gary going, I want to do your show. You want referrals. Let's say you're a doctor. Let's say you're a lawyer. This is one of our clients who's an estate planning attorney. He wants referrals from financial advisors, CPAs, and nursing homes. So does he knock on the door and say, hi, hand out my business card, even though you don't know me and trust me with your clients? No, he'd get thrown out. But if we execute our multi-step, multimedia marketing campaign to those financial advisors, CPAs, and nursing home directors and says, we want to feature you in our book about estate planning trends, they say yes. They line up and say, yes, I want to be in your book. He then interviews them for the book, gets us the interview. We air it as a podcast. We also turn it into a book. And then The financial advisor says, I'm not going to take this book, shove it in my desk drawer, and never tell anyone I was in a book. He says, can I buy 200 or 300 copies? And Richard says, sure, I'll sell them to you at cost. I'm not trying to make any money selling books. I just want to get our message of financial literacy out. So I'll sell them to you at $5 a pop. So the financial advisor says, I'll take 300 copies. I'm going to send them out to all my clients and every prospective client who walks in the door. And what lawyer do you think they go to, all those clients, when it's time to get their estate, will, and trust done? They go to Richard because their financial advisor handed them Richard's book, basically endorsing Richard. I want you to let that sink in. It works whether you're a doctor, a dentist. It doesn't matter if you're a personal trainer. We've got chiropractors. We've got Elvis impersonators. We haven't found restaurant owners. We haven't mommy bloggers. We haven't found an industry it doesn't work in yet. I mentioned this is my wonderful wife, Rebecca. This is my shameless family shot. Max is my 8-year-old son, our 8-year-old son on the right. Lily is 3. She's in the middle. And Ella is 6. She's on the left. They are the reason why I do this. The other reason is because I believe entrepreneurs are going to change the standard of living for the planet. Our government cannot tax us into prosperity. So I make micro loans to about 750 third world entrepreneurs to help them start or grow their businesses to get out of poverty. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm just telling you that's what I'm excited about. So these are the steps, and you want to write these down, and we're going to go through them, but you want to write down the steps to successful podcasting/book. Your podcast needs a concept and a name. So as you saw, it could be estate planning experts. It could be divorcing with a smile. I have a financial advisor doing a podcast about divorce. I think it's New Jersey divorce experts, and he's interviewing the divorce lawyers and the marriage counselors. It could be about plastic surgery, how to grow old gracefully. You need interview questions, and they need to be scripted in a specific psychological progression to let the guest show off, make them feel good about the interview, but also uncover things that you're going to use in your future relationship with this person, like Gary's, what golf course is on your bucket list question. And then you got to book your first guest. And in our case, I hope you outsource that because we have a proven multimedia, multi-step marketing campaign that works to get any guest, literally anybody you can think of. Like I said, we've gotten to Fortune 500 companies. I've gotten to sharks on Shark Tank to say, yes, I want to do your show and be in your book. So I'll give you an example. If I go search the iTunes, I go into podcasts, and I type in personal branding at the top in this little search bar, this is what comes up. And iTunes ranks from left to right. So Life is a Marathon is the #1 podcast. Then why isn't it called Life is a Marathon? Why is it Life is a Marathon, life coaching, self-esteem, personal development, personal branding, positive thinking? Because those are keywords he wants to rank his podcast for in iTunes. And then how come his name isn't just Bruce Van Horn? How come it's Bruce Van Horn, life coach, motivational speaker, thought leader, author, blogger, and runner? Again, he's trying to rank for those keywords. And then in the description of his show, magically, you see motivational speaker, inspiration, life is personal branding, build your self-esteem, et cetera, et cetera. And if you look in his show notes on every episode at the bottom, he's managed to put those keywords in because he's trying to rank for them, and he's done a very good job. I mentioned at the beginning that a podcast is like a radio show on your phone. And that's what people expect. They expect it to sound like a radio show, which means you need a professionally produced introduction. So it has to have music and a voiceover actor or actress doing the voiceover. It can't be you, because Rush Limbaugh, doesn't voice his own voiceover. There's studio talent that does all of that. Your introduction should be a lead generation ad for the podcast so they know why they're going to listen to it. It should position you as the expert in your niche so they know why they're listening to you. And it should also tell them what to do next. So do you want them to go to your website? Do you want them to get a free copy of your book? Do you want them to go listen to something else? Do you want them to go to YouTube? Where do you want them to go? Attend a seminar. You've got to tell them what to do. So even if they don't listen to the whole show, they still know what to do next. Your next steps. I get this question every day. What kind of equipment should I buy? What microphone should I get? What headset should I get? What audio editing software do I use? None. You don't need any of it. You could spend thousands and thousands of dollars on that stuff, but you don't really need to. You're going to start your podcast with the Call Recorder iPhone app. It's free. I'm going to show it to you in a second. You're going to dial the phone to talk to your guest that we booked for you, and then you're going to record the interview and hang up. That's it. That turns into an MP3 file with your introduction at the beginning, and that's your show. Or we professionally produce it for you. So if I go to the App Store and I type in Call Recorder, this is what comes up. And the first one is the one you want, Call Recorder free. I download it, and you don't have to pay for the app. You have to pay for airtime. So you see how it says I have an hour and 2 minutes remaining? I have to buy credits if I use up my hour. So you might spend $10 a month, $15 a month on airtime, depending on how many episodes you do. But it's really, really cheap. And they've tried to make this pretty simple. You just click the big record button. It dials into the service. Then you hit the little add contact button, and you pick the person you're calling to interview. And when the person when you say, hey, are you ready? And they say yes, you hit the merge call button, which is right here. And then poof, you're recording. And then when you hang up the phone, the app opens up and says, you have a new recording available. What would you like us to do with it? And you say email, and you punch in Seth's email address. You punch in my email address, and it sends it to us, and we do the editing for you. In front of the show goes your professionally produced introduction, because again, it sounds like a radio show. Now that radio show needs someplace to live. So there are a lot of services where that show can live that will get to iTunes. We use something called Libsyn.com, and I apologize, it's a typo. It's not Lisbon, it's Libsyn, Libsyn. So I'm going to type that. I'll put that in the chat box too. I apologize. I got to catch that. PowerPoint didn't catch my typo. Then you're going to take the feed from Libsyn, paste it into iTunes one time, and you now have a show on iTunes. And then every time you upload a new episode to Libsyn, or we do it for you, it will automatically show up on iTunes. So you just keep repeating every time you have a new episode. And then you're going to give your guest social media posts to post on their social media accounts about being on your show, emails to send out so they can promote to their customers, clients, and patients that they were on your show. Then you're going to transcribe your episodes into a book. And then when the book is published, you're going to have the same thing. You're going to have each person in the book, social media post, email out about the book, driving people to your book website. And depending on the type of market you're in, you may physically print and mail them a copy of the book and then give them the chance to buy copies at cost so that they can hand them out or mail them out to their people. Does that make sense? Hopefully the answer is yes. So will you be our next success story? I hope so. I hope I'm inspiring you to do a podcast and turn it into a book. I hope that you're starting to see the leverage that a podcast can get you. I mean, if all doing this did for you was get you in front of your dream referral sources and prospects, get your book done without you having to write it, and get you new customers, clients, and patients, would it be worth it? I got to believe the answer is yes. Depending on the business you're in, you may not need very many episodes, to make this worth your while. You know, if you are a plastic surgeon and your surgery is $20,000 and you now all of a sudden get a whole bunch of other doctors handing out your book to their patients and they're coming to see you for surgery, I mean, heck, one surgery pays for this for years. So I hope that that makes sense. Now, when I interviewed for Podcast Marketing Magic, I interviewed 15 of the top podcasters in the world. And the interesting thing was 90% of them were monetizing the same way. And they were building up their audiences till they were really large and national. And they were selling ads on their show and sponsorships on their show. And that works great if you're Tim Ferriss or Gary Vaynerchuk, but not if you're a local doctor, lawyer, financial planner. You know, Richard Binko is never going to get, he may never get more than a couple hundred people who listen to his show. And he does not want another job knocking on doors trying to sell advertising on his show. But this way, he starts making money from the very first one when the very first financial advisor tells all their clients about it. That's the secret sauce. The marketing campaign that gets the guest to participate, and then the marketing that gets them to market it, and then the marketing that gets them to market the book. Hopefully you can see how this would work in your business. So can you do it? There's a whole lot of tech stuff that we talked about. You don't have to do any of that if you outsource to us. Obviously, we'll do it all for you. But it basically comes down to, can you dial a phone? Punch the buttons. Nobody dials anymore. Can you read interview questions? You can read this, so I'm assuming you can read. I'm joking. And can you edit a Word document of the transcription? Which, if you have us do it, we'll do all the editing for you. You don't even need to do that. But I got to believe the answer to those questions is yes. So how you get this all done for you is in our Podcast Marketing Magic program. We create the podcast for you. We create the professional introduction for you, so it sounds like a real radio show. We do the research and find the guests for you. We do the multi-step multimedia marketing campaign that gets them to say yes to do your show. We use our proven psychological progression format to write your interview questions. We edit your audio and upload to iTunes, all done for you. Then we transcribe and edit every episode. We do the graphic design, layout, and publishing of your book. We market and promote the book. We provide the marketing materials that go to the people in the book to get them to send the book out to their customers, clients, and patients, all driving a ton of business your way, all done for you. Plus, I will throw in an extra bonus. I teach a 3-hour marketing seminar, marketing mastermind group every month, where we teach our cutting edge marketing strategies, not just podcasting. We teach Facebook, we teach YouTube, we teach LinkedIn, Periscope, Blab, Meerkat, Reddit, radio, direct mail, TV, you name it. We teach everything that is working for us and our clients right now to keep you on the cutting edge of marketing. And that is normally a $2,364 value to live stream, to watch those videos in a closed membership site, because I don't expect you to fly to Buffalo, and I don't expect you to fly to Buffalo when it's snowing. So we have about 100 people who watch online. That we normally charge $2,364 for that. I will give it to you for free if you go sign up for our Podcast Marketing Magic program at podcastmarketingmagic.com/done for you, all one word. And I will also put that link in the chat box so you can copy and paste it. I know I'm fire hosing you with a ton of content. I am going to take a breath and open it up for questions and answers, which you can type in the chat box. Okay, first question. Get your plastic surgery example, but I'm a dentist. I am a pediatric dentist. How would that work for me? Okay, so a great question. So if you're a pediatric dentist, my guess would be the first 20 interviews we would book you would be the top 20 pediatricians in your area. And maybe the title of the book is something like Raising Healthy Kids. And then when the podcast and the book come out, that pediatrician, if you've got 20 pediatricians handing out copies of a book that they're in that's written about you every day, it explodes your business. Because who are those moms going to come to? They're going to come if they're not happy with their dentist, if they haven't been to their kid's dentist in a while, if they didn't know there was such a thing as a pediatric dentist, because some don't, they're going to come to you. So that is absolutely what I would do. That would be my first thing I would do. Also, it's not, the entire book isn't just the transcriptions. So we also interview you and write like 3 chapters about you. So you don't just want 20 chapters of transcriptions. You want an introduction, you want a conclusion, and you want a couple chapters about you, what you do, what makes you different, why all dentists aren't the same, how to choose a dentist for your child, type of stuff. So again, we're educating the consumer, we're providing them with value so that, again, you're the one they come to. Awesome question. Next question. What is the optimal length for a podcast? Awesome question. 15 to 30 minutes at the most, usually 20 to 30 minutes. Think about the fact that most people are multitasking while they're podcasting. They're driving, or they're at the gym on a treadmill, or they're doing something else. So about 30 minutes. After that, we notice people start to drop off. Now, there are exceptions. If you're Gary Vaynerchuk or Tim Ferriss, then maybe you can do a 2-hour show. But they're also not turning it into a book. If you did 2 hours on one person, I don't know if they could talk about themselves for 2 hours. I don't know if that'd be fascinating for 2 hours. And I'm not sure how many people you'd have in the book then. If it's 20 to 30 minutes, you're going to have 10 to 20 people in a book. And I mean, you don't want 50 people in the book. You don't want a 500-page giant book that no one's going to read. You want like a bookstore book. And that's what our books end up looking like. They look like you'd get them on the shelf at Barnes & Noble. Alexa wants to know, what's a good topic for a realtor? We've done it. So we are in real estate. So one of the examples we have would be like how to get top dollar for your home. How to get the best selling price for your home. And then you might, or how to buy a house in Jamaica, in Boston or whatever it is. So a realtor might interview mortgage brokers. They might interview insurance agents. They might interview real estate attorneys. They might interview home inspectors. They might interview contractors who are doing remodeling work, and all the people who deal with a real estate transaction would conceptually be in your book. I hope that answers your question. I've even got a commercial realtor who's doing it a little bit differently. I've also got some real estate agents who deal with investment property. So it works in real estate. Other questions? Is the call recorder app an iPhone app or an Android app or both? It's an iPhone app. I don't know if there's an Android version, but there are hundreds of call recorder apps in the Google Play Store. So the only caveat I will give you, the only thing you have to look for if you're using a different app is, does it record both sides of the conversation? Because sometimes there are apps that will only record one side, and then that doesn't do you any good because you're doing an interview. So make sure, and also here's the other thing I would suggest. Even if you're using call recorder, test it first. If you're not doing this with us, test it first. So call your wife and hit record, tape the conversation for 5 minutes, then play it back and make sure you can hear both sides and make sure you've got it before you do it. Because the last thing you want to do is interview a guest and then go, oh my God, I'm so sorry I didn't tape it. Can we do that all over again? Because that has happened and can be unfortunate. Good question. You showed the personal branding podcast that had a picture. Do we need a picture? Oh, yes. Thank you. That's cover art. That's called podcast cover art. And you need it, and it affects your ranking in iTunes. I showed you a little bit about the title and the author name and the description, but podcast cover art also affects your ranking. iTunes wants it to be crisp and clean and attractive, and we do that for you. That's built in. We do that for you too. Any other questions? Going once. Going twice. Okay, awesome. I hope I tried to give you a ton of content, a lot of great value. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope you are inspired to either start a podcast and turn it into a book yourself, or if you want to talk to us about doing it, it's at podcastmarketingmagic.com/done for you. And I would imagine that one real estate transaction or one patient more than covers probably many, many months, if not your entire year of our service. We've tried to make it really, really affordable and do all of the work for you except the interview itself, because it needs to be your voice on the air. So thank you so much for attending, and I look forward to hearing from you either way. I'd love to listen to, if you do your own podcast, send it to me. I'll subscribe to it, and I'll give you a 5-star review. And I hope you do the same for mine. And if you have us do it for you, then obviously we'll take care of that. In your first interview, I will throw out one extra bonus for anybody who signs up. Your first interview will be, this will not count as part of the package, but I will interview you on my show. So you'll practice being interviewed by me, and my show will get you in front of a couple million people. So we'll get you some good exposure right away. So thank everybody. Thank you so much for attending, and I look forward to hearing from you.